Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, a student of natural law, and an energy healer. And we're studying the Kybalion right now. And this is a sort of an addendum to the previous lesson based on information I received through meditation. And I'm just going to go back to page 24 and read a little bit. The first of the 7 Hermetic principles is the principle of mentalism, the axiom of which is the all is mind, the universe is mental, which means that the underlying reality of the universe is mind, and the universe itself is mental, that is, existing in the mind of the all. We shall consider this principle in succeeding lessons, but let us see the effect of the principle if it be assumed to be true. So I just don't know that everyone really understands what that means, that the universe is mental. So I'm going to look at that a little more closely. So mainly, this is because I believe that people are being trained away from going inward. So let's replace that word and say the universe is imagination. Mental. Imagination. Imagination is mental, for example. And the word imagination, let's just break that down for a moment. To magi, Nate, I-O-N. So I think we read in the beginning of this book or another book that magi, the magi or magic, is the science of learning to use universal laws. So if that's the case, that word magi or imag, Nate. Imaginate. Is imaginate a word? It actually is a word. You can look it up. I'm not going to look it up right now, but to just break that down, it basically means if Maj is the magician and the magician in the tarot controls all the elements, air, fire, water, and earth, or in other words, it's actually fire is the first element and water is the second element and air is the mediator between fire and air. I mean, fire and water. And fire, air, and water solidified equal matter or earth. Nate basically means that in my imagination, I can create matter through picturing and concentration. And that's why it's so important that if you're going to be doing this book, you have a meditation practice. Okay. Right now, we're at war, the war for our minds. And does everyone understand what that means? I mean, really, if we humans have the capacity to create matter with our minds using our imagination, it would seem much more obvious what the war for our minds would mean. And especially because it seems as if the dark occult Luciferian overlords want to use distraction to keep us from going into the inner portal by creating the internet instead, where we can go online, which is actually in the material plane, and distract ourselves from our abilities rather than exploring and expanding our abilities, which would require us going into our own inner portal through meditation. So again, I'm going to say, I hope that you've started a meditation practice. That's one of the things, the reasons I wanted to go back to this. And when I say that, I mean a silent, unguided meditation practice where you sit and observe your thoughts, count backwards from 100 or count up to 200, counting your in-out breaths to 200, or just sit quietly listening to the background noise of wherever you are deeply and allow your thoughts to pass by and don't get coerced into stopping the meditation to make a list or whatever, just trusting that you'll remember. For about between 5 to 20 minutes per session, with the ultimate goal of being 20 minutes per session, say 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night. And you could keep it there or you can increase it, but nothing less than that after you have achieved the 20 minutes in the morning and at night. There is no way to really stand under the principles in this book unless you enter into the inner portal, which will take place as a result of that meditation practice. Excuse me, I took some notes here. You are embarking upon a spiritual journey. You are making an agreement with your higher self that you want to go deeper. When you begin reading this book, you are flipping a switch on, which has been off, and each individual is going to have their own experience with this material based upon where you are at. However, the experience is an inward one, not an outward one. Go within or go without. I'm just going to go back to this for a second here, see what else it says. If the universe is mental in its nature, then mental transmutation must be the art of changing the conditions of the universe along the lines of matter, force, and mind. So you see, therefore, that mental transmutation is really the magic of which the ancient writers had so much to say in their mystical works and about which they gave so few practical instructions. And the reason for that is because the practical instructions will come to you individually through meditation, because you're flipping a switch into maybe a room in the collective unconscious, the Akasha room, where the information is hidden. If all be mental, then the art which enables one to transmute mental conditions must render the master the controller of material conditions as well as the ordinary called mental. So I'm just going to go back to my notes here for a minute. Meditation is the first step in mentalism. The first step in detaching from the world of matter, which is the place of effects, and entering the mental plane, which is the plane of cause. The all is mental, and we humans can align ourselves with the all by mimicking it. That is how we will gain a deeper access to it, by mimicking it as best we can. When I first read this book in 2015, I did not have a meditation practice, but I had my other longtime spiritual practice of fellowship and service and meditation, as I was doing contemplative meditation at that time, not silent meditation. So I was able to, what I was doing was I was doing art and contemplation. So as I was doing art, I was contemplating these principles. I don't think there's anything too wrong with that, except that it is still double-mindedness. And so I gained access to some of the power, but I don't have consistent access to the power, which I would have if I had simply sat quietly and observed. But at that time, that was the best I could do. In order to really get this book, I had to open myself up to the inner portals to really be able to embody these concepts. That will come through the inner portal from your higher self. These concepts are going to be illuminated, or are going to be illuminating an awareness in you of the other worlds, in defiance of the impatience and distractions that are incubated here on the plane of matter. That's what's going on right now. There are so many people who know who I know who tell me that they meditate while driving. Okay. Again, this is a lie, because you have to be single-minded to receive this information in an embodied way, and to distract yourself, your conscious mind, in an attempt to take a shortcut into the subconscious will only hinder you in the long run, because then you will grow accustomed to having to distract the conscious to get to the subconscious. And that is part of the plan to steal your mind by the elite. We must be unified in our consciousness to be able to access and implement unity consciousness in the material plane, which is what it would take to change the conditions of the universe mentally. Double-mindedness leads to slavery. Why is that? How is that possible? The subconscious will enslave the conscious mind if it is not unified. The duality of distraction is enslavement. You can think about that one for a while. But basically, duality is enslavement. So the idea is that we have to, or you don't have to do this, but me, I am doing this. I have to try to unify my consciousness. As difficult and painful as it may be, as much as it makes me go crazy because I want to leap up and do something else, I have to sit and practice quieting my mind into unity consciousness for periods of time every day. We must humbly submit to meditation. We may have to beg God to be surrendered to do so, but that is necessary. Closing the eyes, focus on the breath, and listening deeply to all that is in the background for several minutes, leading to vacancy of mind. You are gaining freedom from the world of matter, and then you will be approached by the all at your entry point, and you will receive your information for yourself. And so for each person, it's going to be different. Another thing I'll share is that I had extreme brain fog. This is kind of important. I don't know how you guys are, but everybody I know in my circles tells me they don't read anymore. They can't read. I was like that. I could read, but I couldn't concentrate and I couldn't comprehend anything. And I don't know what causes the brain fog. It could be 5G, EMF frequencies, electromagnetic frequencies, combined with the poisons in the food and the air from chemtrails. And You know, combined with using a smartphone, combined with, I'm sure it is partially using a smartphone because that's very dual consciousness. So the most recent thing I've been doing regarding that is taking colloidal gold, and I'll put a link in the description about that, because I actually started making my own colloidal gold for several reasons. One is that it's very expensive. Number two is because I live in a cold area, and a lot of the colloidal gold that you buy online has been made in some way that it can't go below 50 degrees. So it loses its potency under 50 degrees. So I had that experience where I had started taking colloidal gold, and it was incredible how my brain just suddenly, I could read, I could comprehend. It was amazing. And then I put it in the refrigerator and it lost its potency. So because I live in a cold area, I don't want to depend on, you know, the US Postal Service to keep it at a good temperature. So I invested in the equipment to make it myself. And I ended up making it a lot stronger than, I made like meso gold rather than colloidal gold, so I can take less of it. But yeah, that's just what I decided to do because I wanted to feel free to take what I need to take, and I actually ended up increasing the amount that I'm taking now. And I don't have brain fog anymore. There are other ways to deal with brain fog. I believe there's certain mushrooms that you can take, as well as obviously seafood, but I don't know that there's any seafood right now that is not contaminated by mercury and other pollutants in the ocean. I believe that not reading anymore is another way that we are succumbing to the influence of the elite. Another thing I wanted to bring up too is other ways that we are sort of falling into their plan for us of being separated from one another. I have a client who told me that his only support, his only mental health support is online. And the only people that he sees in person are his mentally ill wife and his people at his job. So he has a therapist that he sees online. He was seeing me online for energy healing. And he has a podcast that he does online and other things that he does, and everything's online. He does do exercise, you know, running and stuff like that outside, but and he's comfortable with that, you see. And to me, that is them grooming us into transhumanism, because we do need each other. They want us to believe that it's the same thing for us to talk to each other over Zoom and be in person. And that's just an absolute bold-faced lie, because although we might be communicating over the ether in a certain way, like maybe our auras are communicating through the ether, by having a digital medium between us, filtering our energy, we are not getting the same energy with each other that we would if we were in person. And, you know, this is a form of sorcery. The dark occult are very familiar with the Hermetic laws. They have spent a lot of time and money learning them. and as well as the elites, like the global elite families have been passing down sorcery and black magic, which this work can be used for nefarious purposes. They do have supernatural powers, and they have cultivated them, and they are perpetrating them upon us. And that is another reason why I feel like it's very important for me to learn the powers so that I can be an equal opponent, let's say. For example, if you're using ChatGPT or Midjourney, you know, you're basically falling right into it. And a book just came out called Golem GPT by Diohka Aesden about the sorcery, the black magic that is ChatGPT, and I will post a link to that book. That it is, you know, Kabbalistic magic that is creating an egregore and a servitor. Is a violation of natural law, and will come back on us for doing that. So yeah, that is something that we're doing. That is, it's just gonna make it much more difficult for us to really apply these principles if we're 100% into all these newfangled tools that are being provided for us by the global elite. In a way, the internet is now becoming the material version of the inner portal. It's a new jurisdiction. It's quote unquote easier and more comfortable to enter into than our own inner landscape. And it's designed to replace our conscious contact with our higher power. They are training us to feel comfortable only online, not in nature, not in person. We prefer isolation in their mechanistic inner landscape. If you want the results that this book promises, you can't alter the directions to suit you. Supernatural powers, access to your latent abilities from which we can regain our individual freedom. Those were the notes that I took. But yeah, so I just wanted to go through that a little bit more. As a matter of fact, none but advanced mental alchemists have been able to attain the degree of power necessary to control the grosser physical conditions, such as the control of the elements of nature, the production or cessation of tempests, the production and cessation of earthquakes, and other great physical phenomena. But that such men have existed and do exist today is a matter of earnest belief to all advanced occultists of all schools. And I have had my own experience with rubbing chemtrails out of the sky. So I think that is a testimony to some of the things that I have done, but I want consistent access to this. So I have to be willing to commit to practice meditation first. And then, as I've said before, there's like a few books where Hermetists have laid out their program of how to slowly build towards access. And I'm not going to post the names, titles of those books here because I have some people right now that are probably listening to this who would probably just use it for monetary gain, and I'm not going to help them do that. So again, if you want to get more serious about this work, you can send me an email and I'll be happy to give you the titles to those Hermetic programs. Until next time.